You can do all the marketing you want, but if you don't get this part of the business right, you're wasting money.
Listening to somebody basically say, you're never going to get anybody to stay here that long, it was like, well, wait a second, there's value in that.
Because just think about how many times we stop growing our companies because we don't think we can get the people.
Like, I was never that guy, and that's my new hero.
The biggest and most painful thing about growing big companies is a lot of people can't scale the position.
From 2023, we did 5.5 million. 2024, we did 500,000.
Is it even a business you want to own? Or are you making the same amount of profit as the guy running a $2 million business?
I don't know how far at this point I care to go into that world.
I think that's incredibly important to be clear on.
Happy day, EJ McCoy here with Jonathan Pototschnik, just talking shop. So Jonathan, I want to start this off with a conversation a little bit about my restructuring project with Chorby. So 2026 Chorby Lawn and Pest for weed and pest-free lawns will be a $2 million business doing fertilization and weed control mostly, and a couple $100,000, almost $500,000 in pest control. How do we get our Chorby Lawn and Pests operating those main service lines, lawn care and pest control, to 10 million bucks?
Okay. And for context, for those that are listening, this is one of 4 businesses for you. His total revenue is approaching 30 million.
Yeah.
And because a lot of this discussion is going to be about $10 million plus businesses and what that's like and how you build them. To your question, so you're trying to take it from 2 million in 2026 to a $10 million business.
Yes, however long that takes, but as fast as possible. What are you focusing on from 2 to 10?
Marketing. So I'm thinking about, it's frankly, to me, but my solution to most things is a sales and marketing solution. But to me, it's largely a marketing problem because that particular business is not overly complex to scale an additional technician. So there's some number of technicians where, and actually at $2 million, you really should already have the equivalent of a division head. So somebody,
Absolutely.
Okay. So somebody's over operation. Okay. So if that person, one of the things I'm going to think about is that person capable of running a 2 million, a 5, a 10, a $20 million business? What's their experience level? Can they scale up their abilities? And by scaling up their abilities, I'm thinking about they're becoming more of a coach and a mentor. They at 2 million, they might still be doing some training, but hopefully you've got guys on the truck, or you've got 1 or 2 key techs that are now the trainers out in the field as you bring in new techs.
That's an area we lack. He's now still that.
Okay, yeah, so he's going to have to shed that responsibility.
But he knows, talked about it, yeah.
Okay,
good.
But he's still a coach, and he's still a teacher. He's an expert on big problems. Mm-hmm. He should still be out in the field dealing with problems, and he should for a long time because he needs to keep that role to me always keeps your foot in the field.
I agree.
And so there's this coaching, mentoring, training, dealing with the worst problems, trying to figure out hard things like, why are we still having this problem at this account? What's the issue? Those are the things this person's going to be doing. And they're going to need to be able to manage their time where one of the temptations might be is they might love the field work and they may not love the coaching and the training. And so what are they going to naturally do? They're going to naturally want to be in the field fixing problems why are you fixing this? Our techs can deal with this problem. You only deal with the worst things. And so you've got to find this right person that can live in the balance, live between those different worlds of everything I just described.
In other words, that person at 2 million bucks is doing a different job. Then they've got to be able to scale their own job, their own position, their own role.
They have to shed things that they're doing. Like right now, the company needs you to solve some of the hardest technical problems. The company needs you to still do some training. The company needs you to still talk to Miss Smith when she's irate and we want to fix this relationship. And we need you to do a fair bit of that. But in time, you're going to have to give up more and more of these activities to focus on the bigger and bigger activities. Bigger and bigger activities are, you're really going to have to pay a lot of attention to the data. Are we producing per day the amount of revenue we need to be producing? Are the routes optimized? There's all these things that lead to a high profit business. Are you thinking about how the chemicals are managed, how they're protected? Are you thinking about safety? Are you thinking about systems? All that stuff. This person in the early days, I tend to make this argument that you don't need many systems in your company when you're small. they just break, meaning that as you scale, it's like, well, that doesn't make sense anymore. And so, but as you get big, you do need systems, you do need process, and can they create that? Are they willing to live in it? And so they have to grow at the role. And this is the biggest and most painful thing about growing big companies is a lot of people can't scale the position. They just can't. They want to, but they can't.
In other words, if that position was going to stay just as it is, we were going to stay a $2 million business for the next 15 years.
They'd be great.
They'd be great. But in order to get us to 7 million or 10 million over 5 years, that's a totally different person in a lot of ways.
And it could be because they don't love data, they aren't willing, or they don't like creating process, and we didn't really need process at 2 million. Now we need it, and you've got to create it and live in it.
Yeah.
And they can't do it. It like sucks all the joy out of their life. And so they can give lip service to the idea that we should do it. They can agree we should do it, but when it comes to actually doing it, they don't do it because it sucks. They hate it.
They don't like the new
And that's not a problem with them. That's how they're made. But it just means that they can't be the leader of that business at that line of business at 7 or 10 million. So these are some of the things you're thinking about purely at a personnel standpoint, which you can do all the marketing you want, but if you don't get this part of the business right, you're wasting money.
Yeah. Would you agree that that person, coaching that person, if you build the right culture and you work with that person, and that person you have trust with that person, and
You being the owner?
You being the direct report and or the owner, yes.
Okay.
The direct report and or the owner of that person, and would you agree, let's say that person is a rock star at 2 million, but at 5 million, like you say, they hate the job. The job has changed to the point that they don't like all the data stuff.
And they're probably not going to tell you they don't like it. You're going to see it in the performance. So you have to make the decision, not them.
I'm a believer that and sometimes I've proven that this can actually happen, but it's also very tough and rare. But if you have good enough culture and good enough trust and rapport with your team, you can go to that person and say, hey, listen, I want you to continue to succeed with this company, but we got to bring somebody in that's good at these things to be able to get to the next level. If you have, it's really hard and rare to do this, but there are situations where sometimes you have to coach that person out. They move up because they get mad that you have, but other times you can keep that person in the role that they're great at and bring in somebody that works with them and maybe even that they have to report to.
Yeah. I agree.
And I think I've seen success in that. I've also seen that crash and burn.
It comes down to a couple things. I think one, it comes down to the person.
Yeah.
Is there too much pride involved where they would see it as embarrassing within the organization and they can't handle it?
Right.
If that's not the issue, the other thing it comes down to is, did you, as the leader of the business, fret over this thing and get finally pissed off about this thing, where then you react and you push that person out, like you finally make a decision and they're out?
Yeah.
Versus, did you see this coming and you start to architect conversations to show them that, hey, I'm not loving what I'm doing and I'm not happy in life, and maybe I would have more fun over here.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I've done this many times, and it takes sometimes several months to help a person see. Sometimes it's help them see they shouldn't be in the company.
Yeah.
But help them see that they are not thriving where they're at and they're not even happy. And it depends, like there's got to be a planning period here. Like I just see so many entrepreneurs ignore a situation.
They avoid uncomfortable.
But they're pissed about it. They're thinking about it. And then one day it pops. And so that's why I said there's a little planning ahead here where you're architecting a solution to this. So it has to be done right. It has to be done over a period of time. And it doesn't mean it'll work though.
No, it doesn't.
But if you have, in my opinion, it's worth a try if you have just a phenomenal person that's a great culture fit, you wanted them on the team and you have a great place for them. I don't think making places for people generally work.
It doesn't.
I've tried
too hard. I've tried
everything.
I've tried doing it, and I agree with you. It can work.
Yeah.
It can work, but out of the amount of times I've tried it,
yeah,
it doesn't have a good track record.
Yeah. But when you have a winner, you really want to keep them on the team.
Yeah.
I also think it's good to move people around from time to time to give them like a new energy level. On one hand, you want longevity with team. You want people to stay a long time. On the other hand, there's something to be said about new energy coming into a business. Like there's this fine line of people staying too long, and
this is somewhat totally off, but you're exactly right. I had some people tell me a year ago, as we were talking, internally, we were talking media, and we were about to lose a core media person. And I was like, I felt like we were starting over in so many ways. And then another team member actually said, you kind of better get used to this because you're not exactly operating in the sexiest businesses.
Sure.
And young marketing people that are passionate about media are going to get bored, and it's going to be a high turnover. And I took that advice and I thought, you're kind of right. I don't like it, but I realized that's true. And so we actually established an internship program literally the last few months. Ben's leading that with our new marketing coordinator. And between our new marketing coordinator and Ben, we went and found interns, listening to somebody basically say, you're never going to get anybody to stay here that long. It was like, well, wait a second. There's value in that. If I can develop a program, an internship program where I get young people in here that are passionate about marketing, they bring in skills. They might be here 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And then they go on to something new, and they're part-time. And you get new blood in here. And in a world of marketing and media that is constantly changing and trends are constantly changing, you want that fresh blood.
Yep.
And that's actually something we've established very recently, is this internship program where we're getting that new fresh blood. Not so much on the operation side, like I think you were initially talking. That's why I said a little bit.
Yeah, but I think it's a great idea.
It very much so, I think, can work. It's early, but I think it could work. Okay, so now that I did that little sidetrack, that's the advice from 10 to 10 million. 2 million to 10 million.
I mean, there's
people marketing.
Well, yeah, let's just expand just a little further. But the two big legs of the stool would be, you really got to start getting the word out in a massive way, because also remember, for this service line, as the service line starts to get bigger, we'll use the analogy of, let's say, just to put math to it, 20% of clients move in the market. And it's down these days because of interest rates and stuff. But I remember in the boom times of this market, it was like 20%.
It just occurred to me, that's why our churn rates have come. We've obviously given effort to lowering our churn rates, but you're right. Your churn rates are naturally going to go down with interest rates being the way they are.
Yep. And so let's just say we were back in the boom day and there's 20% just built-in churn because people are moving. Now, if 20% of the market turns, you won't really have 20% churn in your business because some people are moving in market. So in our case, they're moving from Plano to McKinney.
Right.
So you might keep them, hopefully. Well, as this gets bigger and bigger, the math gets bigger. So for example, to have a $10 million business, if a client is worth $1,000, you don't even have to put it that way. Just let's say you're losing $2 million. You're losing $2 million a year. Whatever the client's worth, divide that by 2 million. You have to replace that many clients.
This is the challenge
to break even. And then if you have this goal, like we want to grow another 20% on top of that,
you have to get 40% new clients.
It is massive. Yeah. The numbers get massive. And that's why if you don't start building this marketing engine early and you don't get really good at it, you will naturally hit a wall. And most businesses do hit this wall.
We hit that wall at $6 million with our mowing and our FERT all combined. We hit that wall, well, among other distractions, but we also pretty well hit that scalability wall. We've been able to maintain about 6,000, 7,000 clients.
It just gets...
But we cannot seem to break beyond that.
It happens to everybody, and that's why it's back to what we were talking about in a different video with City Turf. It's why I'm back in the business, and the only way this thing is going to get to where I want it to go is we have to spend a massive amount of money and effort on marketing.
Yeah.
And because of the scale, the size that we're at now, for a decade, we've been able to live on no marketing, and the thing just kept growing.
You've been able to manage that churn.
That day is coming we're still growing, but and in that time, we reinvented the entire revenue base. It's now fertilization weed control is the biggest service, is a different business. But I see the day, the growth is getting slower and slower and slower, and I see the day where it's going to stall if we do not really get serious, and that's what we're trying to do now. And so that's the problem that a lot of companies have. And so from early on, you need to really build that engine in the business, the marketing function, and it has to be balanced eventually as the business gets bigger with the recruiting function. Because just think about how many times we stop growing our companies because we don't think we can get the people.
Yeah. It's been, fortunately for me, it's been a huge blessing for us. I am beyond blessed in that regard. I have not had at Chorby labor issues that kept me from growing.
That's fantastic.
In a decade.
Yeah.
It's been a decade since I had that problem.
That's great. It's
8 years since
for most companies, it slows them down.
Yeah.
Oh,
that
it
has
stops
not,
them.
and that's what's even more frustrating is that has not slowed us down. We have not had labor issues, so it's even more frustrating.
Amazing.
Bring the clients. Where are they at?
It's fantastic. And so if you kind of think about it, between those two, we'll call them engines, the marketing engine and the recruiting engine, I call them an engine because they're the life of the business.
Yeah.
They're not running. You're not moving forward. In between sets that whole operational thing that we were talking about with who's running this business.
Yeah.
And is it well run? And so one of the other additional things I was going to say is at some point in there, you have to bring data into this business. You have to understand your COGS, what it costs to acquire clients. You got to really understand that stuff, or you will live in fear of spending money because you don't know if it's profitable money, or you'll overspend and you'll slowly accumulate debt. You won't understand what's wrong with the business, or you can't take on debt, or you shouldn't be taking on debt to grow this business because you don't understand the numbers, so you don't know if you're doing the right thing. So those are, if I were to kind of say there's 3 big legs, it's marketing first, recruiting, and operations.
Yeah.
And that's the crux of the most important stuff.
Yeah, the operations is the data you're talking about. That's
operations is a combination of the leader of that division or that business. They're the operational person, and by leader, that could take a CEO role or a COO role, like an operational person. I'm more referring to the operational person, the person that's running the daily of this business. Remember, we started this conversation talking about the individual that might be doing some training and some mentoring and some coaching and some dealing with the hardest clients, the hardest problems. That's the operational person that has to grow out of some of the tasks, hand them off to other people, and move into higher level tasks that a operational person of a $10 million business would do. That's the kind of you can just you can recruit all day long and you can market all day long, but if it's a highly inefficient business, you might get lots of gross revenue, but you'll have small profit margins.
That's been what Chorby's lived through for the last 6 years.
Yeah. So there's a ton of really strong sales and marketing organizations out there led by strong sales-minded entrepreneurs, but they have really crappy businesses. Like, look at the volume of businesses in the industry make 8% net, or 5%, or I think 10 sucks. And some of that is fair when you're young because you're investing and growing in the business. So you've got to understand where you're at in the business. But so many individuals are great about growing top line revenue, but they're not good at running a great business. And that's why that operational person is an imperative part of this, of actually building and even having a chance to get to 10 million. And if you get there, is it even a business you want to own? Are you making the same amount of profit as the guy running a $2 million business?
Yep.
And so that's why I talk about those 3 things as the foundational things to get you to that $10 million mark.
That is absolutely, I in my experience, everything you just said, because again, the Chorby we're talking about that's now 2 million in lawn and pest, it's peaked at 7 million.
Yep.
Whether, with plumbing and with lawn mowing and all these things. And of course, we're restructuring it and downsizing it and getting out of most of those things and spinning off our mowing. And as we were scaling that up, you're correct. And it got really inefficient, really fast, especially with all those things going on.
Yeah.
And so that's where this restructure comes in. But as you're speaking that, and as we're looking at Chorby going from 2 million and working its way in just lawn care and pest control back to 10 million, this totally makes exact sense and falls within, I believe, what we will be working on the next couple of years. So beyond that,
there's no way to give like this one magical thing. Like, there's never, in business and in growing and dealing with problems, there's never one magic solution. It's always a series of things that have to be coordinated and in balance. And I gave the example of operations, recruiting, and marketing. Those things all have to sort of be in balance, and you're kind of growing them all at the same time, and you're focusing on certain things more than another thing at different times. And that creates an element of complication. And so I don't know how to say this is the one most important thing, because you could have a killer operational person, but if you're not doing the marketing,
you're not growing.
But I will tell you, the one thing that will break it all is not, God, this is the problem. Any one of those will break it all as well. But I feel
you went 10 years without marketing, and you guys have grown through that 10
not
years.
Because we just showed up and put signs on our truck, because
you built a machine.
We built a machine before it, 25% gross revenue going into marketing.
Yeah. Oh, really?
In the early days,
In your
absolutely.
early
Yeah.
days?
I mean,
Let
we
me clarify that though.
have a
I've
small
never heard you
business.
mention. I was going to say,
Yeah.
how small? Are you saying
In
you were
the
doing $2 million a year at City Turf and you were still putting 25?
we probably were. I don't know now. We'd have to look. I'd say maybe more like 15% at that point.
Okay.
But we were, and
That's where we're at with Scoop Soldiers.
yeah.
Our corporate operations, what I'm regrowing.
Yep.
Because, we took Scoop Soldiers, our corporate ops, from a $7 million revenue all across the country, franchised out most of that to where from 2023, we did $5.5 million. 2024, we did 500,000. We downsized our corporate operations. Well, now we're in the process of building that back up again.
by corporate operations, you
Non-franchised owned locations.
company owned. Yeah.
Company-owned locations.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I was just going to simply make the point. I really would struggle to say this is the one most important thing. If I were to pick a hierarchy, I'd say at first it's marketing. That's where it starts. And then after that, it's probably the operationally strong person. And then third, it's recruiting. Because you can kind of limp along finding the people into the low millions of dollars, even between, let's call it the owner and a decent
team, your
person.
network or whatever. You can get so-and-so's brother to come in. Up to about
a point, and then it
mark.
starts to get really hard, and then you need that recruiting.
I had to go out and get H2B guys the year after I hit $1 million in revenue.
Yeah,
I had to. There was no way I was going to grow.
That's probably
2012. I hit $1 million in revenue, and this was mostly mowing back then. And I remember roughly, I had about 12, 15 guys, and I had one core leader that was a Guatemalan guy.
Yep.
So he had a good network of guys.
Yep, that's how
that's how I got my first 10, 12 guys. But once I hit that $1 million in 2012, 2013 was the first year we got H2B guys. I think we got 20 of them that year.
Yep.
I could have never gone and scaled.
Yeah. I wish I could remember what number we were at, but it sure seems like around $1 million was our number as well.
Yeah, where you just can't.
Where you had to get the H2B
But
visa.
you say that, but you guys have had to work the last 5, 6, 7 years, like you were talking earlier, where you've built an enormous staff mowing yards that are not H2B. Right?
We've changed. I mean, we still have a lot of H2B.
You have a lot of
H2B. Made a lot of
you have a
changes.
lot of guys that are just hustling,
Yep.
mowing lawns.
Yep. We've also we cap mowing. I mean, we're not trying to grow that business much at all. So anyway, those are for your business. That's the stuff I'm thinking about.
So now let's segue to the next. You're at your 8 figures. You hit that 10 million mark.
Yeah.
What about 10 to 20 million changes in a lawn and a pest oriented business? And you're just getting started at 10 and 20 million. You can build that business to 250 million.
Yeah, you can go quite a ways.
I mean, True Green makes the sky the limit in a lot of ways. They still do $1.5 billion in FERT revenue a year.
Yeah, to be a True Green though, you really have to shift to even a different, and actually to get to some of these really big numbers.
Well, let's work our way backwards then. Let's start up there and work our way back down.
This is me talking. I mean, this is me making stuff up. I don't know what I'm talking about.
These are your general.
Yeah, I mean, I've never lived in this world. The two things that come to mind to get to that scale, you really become more, if you're going to do it at any pace, if you're going to do it quickly, you're now really thinking about capitalizing the business. So how do we bring in money?
And they did it by going public.
Yeah, I don't know what led up to it. I don't remember the history of their business. I don't know how old they were.
I don't know that much. What I know is they had been around 20 years. They were based, I think, in Tennessee, and they went public in the mid-90s, raised an enormous amount of money, and then just went and spent enormous amounts of money like private equity would today buying competitors.
Let's think about like a City Turf. We'll use City Turf as an example. If City Turf wants to go to 100 million and 300 or 400 million, while I'm still give a flip about the money and I'm not, rolling around in a wheelchair or whatever, we're going to have to capitalize the business. Like I will either have to put a lot of money into the business, or we would raise capital, because what we would do is we'd start making a lot of acquisitions.
Okay.
So if you think about how these companies have generally got to these sizes,
Acquisition.
they're 100 years old. They're old is my point. Or
decades
very many
20th century.
And there's probably been some acquisitions over time. But if you're wanting to do it as a relatively younger company like our companies, you're going to have to do it through acquisitions. And that's the model that's happening right now. So that's why I use the word capitalization. It's like, okay, how are you going to pay for these acquisitions?
It's what Tommy Mello did.
Yeah, that's what he did. Yeah.
He took his $30 million a year business
and he funneled all the money back into it.
He capitalized it.
And
he also had the team. He had
my understanding,
all the things we were just talking about, what it takes to get to 8 figures.
Yeah.
He had that.
Yeah.
And then
my understanding is he did it with his own profits out of the company for the longest time, and then he used outside money to do it.
But he used his own profits for the longest time.
That's what I've always understood. Yeah. He was putting it all back in. I think he's got kind of that traditional, again, I don't want to speak out of turn, but as I understand it, he's got that traditional all-in entrepreneur story where he's 40 plus years old. The company's making a lot of money. He's still driving the same 15-year-old truck, and all his money is going back into the business. And that's how he's made his acquisition.
At 40 and a half years old, as we were laughing about earlier, I have a new, that's my new, and you're that way too in a lot of ways, but that's like, I was never that guy, and that's my new hero, is the guy who, whether it's a Mike Andes or a Tommy Mello, the guy who can drive his Honda Civic to $100 million. Like I used to think that guy was stupid. I used to think, why would you do that? You got to live a little.
Once you make it to 40,
but as
I'm glad I did that, or I wish I'd done it, but
as I've turned 40,
but it's a long ways out there when you're 20.
Yeah, no doubt. And I've gotten to experience the cars, but now that I've gotten to experience the cars, I don't care about the cars. So I'm looking at that guy and I'm like, he's kind of right. Like, why do they spend all this damn money on these cars? I could drive a 20-year-old Toyota and it gets me the same thing. And so I've got this new, I'm almost double-minded in my head more than I ever was.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, if you're like, hey, you can have another Ferrari or you can have a bigger company. I feel much more pride and satisfaction and fun from that than I do having a car that I'll never drive.
When you put those two in my hand, I would always have said that too, but at the same time, I have not exactly lived exactly that way.
Yeah.
But if you put it like that, it's like, that's exactly.
Yeah. I generally live that way. But I mean, the cars was my only carve out where I did the car stuff.
But you also have always...
I kept my houses cheaper than I did to do the car. Anyway, so
that explains the high, but so actually it kind of takes us all the way down to that 20. That's the next level then. When you're 10 to 20 million, you kind of have to start making these different decisions. What do I need to do to get to 100, 200 million? That might require...
I think for you to go to 100 or 200 million, you're going to do acquisitions and organic growth. So you're going to be doing a combination of growing the business as quickly as you can, organically, meaning through traditional sales and marketing. At the same time, you're going to go into acquisition mode, and you're either going to do onesie-twosie acquisitions, meaning you're going to make one every X number of years. You could probably work that yourself.
Yeah.
Meaning you as the leader of the business. If you're going to go into hypergrowth or fast growth mode, then you're going to bring in a person that their role is to find the acquisition.
I just did that at Scoop Soldiers.
Okay.
So I've told you about Kendra numerous times.
Yeah.
She has a three-pronged approach to her role. Franchise development is only one of the three. And that's, in my opinion, it's the least important. Sorry, Kendra. No, it is the least important, but she's very motivated, of course, to go get franchisees, which is what I want. Yep. Second prong is developing relationships within the industry, so that when people are ready to sell, we're the people to buy because 100%. We're uniquely qualified to do it. We have the experience, we understand the numbers in ways that nobody else understands it. We have the background because now we've made a couple of acquisitions, so there's some trustworthiness in that. But that's part of her job, is to find acquisitions. And of course, as you mentioned earlier, it's a very small industry, so it's not like we might make 10 acquisitions this year that equal 250 clients. Like, it's not exactly
tiny
little bitty, like, here's 25 clients here. This person got in and got out of the business and we're paying them for these.
You're buying accounts.
Exactly. Yeah. But in some cases, we bought 110 clients, which is essentially $140,000 in annual revenue in Newport News, Virginia in February.
Yeah.
And she sold us her whole business, and it was a full route. That's about a full route, a little less than a full route. So that's part of what we're doing at Scoop Soldiers right now on a national scale. Her third prong is franchisee support. In other words, Kendra, your job is to ensure that the profit and loss of our franchisees, and she's incentivized by this, is to get their profit and loss as successful and as profitable as possible for them.
Okay.
And because as we've talked about franchising, it's essentially a training and development mechanism. Yep. We're training and developing business owners in our brand, and she's very uniquely qualified for that. So that's kind of a three-pronged approach, but the acquisitions is definitely a piece of that.
Yeah, and so maybe let me expand on this a little more, because I've only touched on one little piece of this. This is why it's an expensive function to build inside the business, but if you want to go really big and fast, the model essentially looks like you need to find your individual that's doing some of the things you're talking about. They're out there in a sense pounding the pavement. They're flying into, depending on whatever market you're going to make acquisitions in, driving or flying in. They're having dinners. They're trying to get people on the phone. They're trying to nurture these relationships that will take years.
Exactly.
And they're
her and I flew to Cincinnati a few months ago to meet with a pet waste business owner, successful business. He had such a good, well put together business. He's an MBA educated guy, and he had such a well put together business. I couldn't buy it. It's too valuable.
Too expensive.
He could go and find a 45-year-old person with a 401k to sell that business to for what he's asking for, which I could never pay. And that person would pay that, and it would make sense for them to pay that. I couldn't do it. But so we're learning that as we speak and developing those relationships.
You gave the analogy, and you guys are a much bigger company, but just to make an example to people, like you gave the example of buying 250 accounts. You can kind of run some math here. If you're a $30 million company and you're trying to go faster, if you're going to go buy $500,000 business, you're going to have to buy a bazillion of them to move the needle for the year. If you want 10% growth, that's $3 million. You got to buy 6 businesses right there just to even get 10% growth, which you're probably wanting way more than 10% growth.
Which is why another prong for Scoop Soldiers is we're just launching new markets as fast as we possibly can, in addition to acquisitions.
And so that then gets into the organic side. But let's stay on this other side because there's more elements to this. Okay, so now you've got to go find somebody that's expensive that their sole purpose is to source deals and try to get the right people to the table. Okay, so let's just say you do strike the deal. That's where capitalization comes in to fund the deal, unless you have enough money inside the business.
Yeah, see, we're self-funding everything right now, but
when you working on these deals get bigger,
I know, and I'm working on trying to get lines of credit to kind of utilize it as these, because I know it's innately going to happen over the next 5 years. So the deals are going to get bigger.
And as the deals get bigger, now you have legal. Legal's super expensive on these deals.
I think AI is going to help solve some of that, but yes.
I'm sure it will in time to a degree, but
I'm already using.
But man, when you're working these deals, like I would not have you, like we spent $500,000 on Service Autopilot, and I think they spent $1 million on their side.
That's a whole nother level.
And I just can't imagine having used AI. I would have been too scared to do it.
Well, like, so not for that deal. Not for that deal, but where I'm exaggerating, where have we recently used AI and I was like, I'm not paying a lawyer for
there's a million
things. There's a million little
I wouldn't disagree with that. But I'm trying to make the point, if you're 30 million, you're buying bigger and bigger deals. So now your legal expenses are climbing because you're doing bigger deals. And then you've got the whole due diligence side, which as they get bigger, due diligence, you got to do more diligence. Okay, so you can just kind of see how complicated this gets. And then finally, you do the deal. Now you need a team of integrators. So kind of think about one or more, because now you've got to bring these people into your ecosystem and you've got to stabilize them. You might need to get them on the same software as you're using. You may not want to change the brand
level that I have.
So now you got to get them on the same tech. Over time, you need to get them on maybe the same, we'll call it, management operating system. You've got to learn who the team members are inside the company that should still be there versus who should get upgraded. Like, there is so much about just absorbing these companies, and you're trying to go fast. And so it's a perfect example of why the faster you go, the bigger the deal is you need to acquire. Like, you start out getting your feet wet buying $1 and $2 million businesses, and then very quickly you're just like, we got to buy 20 of these a year, and we got to onboard them. That's
why the value
now we need to buy entire million. Exactly. Now we need to buy $10 million companies. And so this is the world you end up in if you're trying to get to these massive.
And that is the thing that I'm still, and you challenged me. They still kind of joke that I'm not, I might say it now, but when things shift a little bit, I'll have to be held back again. But like, I don't know how far at this point I care to go into that world.
I think that's incredibly important to be clear on.
Yeah.
Because I think you can wake up one day and say, we've made an incredible amount of money. We've created a ton of wealth, but I missed all these other things that make for a complete life. It's kind of my
whole challenge. I don't want to go through all of that headache and that's where, like, I question that exact thing. Like, I could build Chorby organically to 20 or 30 or 40 million dollars in the next 10 years, or even just 15, but only work 20 hours or 10 hours a week on it.
Yeah.
Or I could work 40 hours a week, but it gets to 150 million. Is that worth it? Going back to all those things we're talking about. For me, I don't know that it is. And I used to say the opposite.
I think you have to know who you are. And I think this is so much, I can give great advice. but I still struggle with the very same advice.
Yeah.
And by great advice in this example, I mean, I think it's really wise to understand the number you need. So as an example.
See, I don't understand that number. You mean the number of wealth?
No, more of the income.
Income.
Because wealth is a complicated thing.
I don't know that I understand that from
And I don't think you can until you try things, and it's an ever increasing number. And that's where I can give great advice, but it's harder to take because there can be because you're constantly seeing new or opportunities and ways to spend money. Although I frankly think there's like there's massive diminishing returns at some point, but like,
yeah, once you make $5 million a year, what the hell can you do with it all?
Yeah, I don't frankly even think you need that much.
I know. Well,
yeah. And that depends how much you give away. It just depends on what you want. Like if your thing in life is a yacht, okay, well, you're going to need a lot more money. But if you don't care about that and you don't have to own the plane, you can just charter planes or not use private planes. That number comes way down.
My grandma asked me about a year ago. Very simple. Not. In other words, my grandma's not a super millionaire or super ambitious or anything. She drove a school bus. She's retired. Her husband was a home builder, and she's retired on a nice income. But she asked me. She says, EJ, because she's no longer ambitious. She says, EJ, could it ever be too much? Like, could you ever have too? And I said, Judy. I call her Judy. She's pseudo grandmother. I said, I could spend $1 billion in 2 weeks. I say,
I don't know how you do that, but okay.
Well, you can. In 2 ways, and I'm being dramatic here. In 2 ways, you could spend $1 billion in 2 weeks, no problem.
You'd have to give it away.
Give it and buy stuff.
Yeah.
Buy Twitter.
Okay. Buy
stuff.
For sure. Yeah.
And give it.
Yeah.
You can never run. You can.
You could always spend it
when you're giving it.
My answer to too much is when people know what you have. That's when it's too much. I would never want to be known for the amount. The worst thing about being a billionaire would be being known as a billionaire.
It goes to the joke. I think it's Bill Gates gave to Bezos, where Bill Gates kind of laughed at Bezos and goes, "It sucks being number one, doesn't it? Being number two is so much better."
I wouldn't want to be on the list at all.
Yeah, exactly. But it's that whole concept of like, when you're number 2 or 3 or whatever on that list, when you're number 1, it's when you really get
pounded. Yeah. But the point I wanted to make is, let's say that you concluded that you can live an epic life with a lot of freedom at $1 million. And I know we're just talking these numbers but we're talking about bigger companies here, and simple math, a $10 million business with only a 10% net is $1 million a year. I mean, so it's just simple math. And so it's not that crazy.
No, it's not
at all. And so if $1 million a year would give you the life you want, there is a question about why do you go for 3? And you just have to know what you most care about and what you want out of life. And because I think it's a trap. And it's a trap. And
that's where that unhappiness.
This is very.
And what I was talking about
something I've thought about
that
for
unhappiness
years.
Can come in because it can become a trap.
Yeah. Or you wake up later and it's like, why did I go for more and not go do the trips that I always cared about, or in my case, do the cars, the racing stuff, or ride dirt bikes, which I did some of that, but I didn't do it nearly as much as I can do it now.
Yeah.
And so, and even as I'm starting to work again more and more, I'm feeling guilty about doing all the other things, which like, why? Why do you, it's stupid, and part of it's because I love the business thing. It's not just about making money. I don't wake up and think, I need to make another whatever. Right. I wake up and think I want to do this or accomplish this thing. But I do think it's really critical to try to I buy into this idea that if you figure out what your number is and you can create that, which very few people can, and then you can be happy there, that is an epic life.
I agree with you totally. And this is totally going on literally as we speak.
It's almost impossible for an entrepreneur to actually achieve it, is my theory.
And that's what I'm struggling with, because I don't know that I don't know a number. I don't.
Oh yeah, and some of that comes from experience. Some of it comes from like literally I at one point sat down and literally mapped out everything, like the most epic life, how much money I would need per year to live it, and I just calculated the number.
What was it at that time? Was it 5 million?
No, it's like 2.2
a year. That's
yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So over a 10-year period, you'd make $25 million to live your life.
You'd spend
$25 million.
But I actually don't do that. And I can do that.
In other words, less. You actually,
it's turned out to be way less.
We did the math and you actually spend spend less.
But my point was, I think you can back into it, and I massively overestimated it.
Wow.
I just really think you can run that exercise and kind of back into this, and there's something to be said for it. If you don't just love to your core the game of business, like I think there are people that should spend all their time doing their business, and because that is the only thing they care about and they love it. And then there's other people, which this is how we got off on this. You've expressed this idea of like, I like it, I want to be in it, but I don't want it to consume me.
Exactly.
And that's where I think the number becomes important, because that can protect you from never stopping the game, where you wake up one day and you say, the kids are out of the house, we didn't do the trips, they're married now, it's almost impossible to get them to do it. I didn't do that fun adventure when my body could do it, and now now I'm aging. It's like I don't have the energy for it. That is an unbelievably common story. I'm in a business group with a lot of just unbelievably wealthy individuals,
and this is one of the ones that we've talked. It costs you like 30, 50 grand a year.
Yeah.
And $5,000 a year, $1,000 a year to be in this group.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that live. I mean, everybody in there lives a great lifestyle. Most of them are pretty down to earth, but nobody. I do hear this theme. Like, most people aren't. I absolutely, without question, travel more than anybody else in that group.
Really,
for sure. I mean, unless I'm forgetting somebody, I don't know who it'd be.
Even for work, because these people also work.
No, for fun.
For fun. Okay, so they might travel for work all the time.
But I constantly hear like, "God, that's awesome. I'd love to do that." But there's nobody in there that can't afford to do it or find the time to do it. And my point here is that that's pervasive, and that's the world I've always lived in as well. It's like, because you're building, and then you've been building for 20 years, and that's your habit. That's the only thing you know. I feel like taking a sabbatical has shown me that, like, God, I love building. I love it so much. Like, that's a good life for me. But there is legitimately a whole nother side to this thing. And I've always known that, but you get in such a habit of just building and going and doing, and you go to your business groups, and this dude's doing 100 million, or this guy's worth 400 million, or whatever. You shrink the numbers for whatever world you live in. You're like, I could do that too. And so you just become like a robot, and you go for this stuff. And this is back to my number thing, where I've really thought about this a lot. It's like, okay, what is the number? Build to that number, and then introduce all these other things into your life, these other adventures, and see if I have friends that despise to travel. They hate it. They shouldn't do it. They should just build their business. It's like,
I love to travel.
So I think you should come up with a number. You should build there, and then you should go experiment, try all this other stuff, figure out what a good life looks like from there, and then go back to building, whether it's building a business or building the other side of your life. I don't know if this makes sense or it's interesting.
Makes sense to me.
But that's how I think about it.
I sometimes wonder, it's only just passing thoughts, I'm not ever going to do it, but should I just focus my time on health, since I'm so bad at actually working out? I'm bad at discipline and working out. I'm bad at eating right. But maybe if I just started focusing like I do on a business, like look at it like another business, and it's my fifth business. And so now I have to focus my time on health and wellness, and then, tack that onto.
There's no way your 50 and 60-year-old self said, I love the frame, what would my future self be pissed at me for?
Well, I know exactly all the things that I love right now is what my future self, drinking, milkshakes, other bad habits, all the things I love is what my future self doesn't want me to do.
And so, I mean, that is an obvious one. And I mean, on the health front, just walk around in the world and look at everybody that's older than you are, and look at how stiff everybody is and how they move and their range of motion. A lot of people look older than they should look, and you can just extrapolate that they feel like crap. And as you get older, you deteriorate so much faster that you have to try extra hard. Like, I've been pretty good about always working out, always eating good, but my always working out might have meant I worked out once a week. And for years, I completely stopped lifting weights. I was only running. And I tell Riley and Gage, my two boys, Riley, and Riley's really good about working out. Like, if there's one thing you never, ever, ever stop doing in life that I would do it over again, I would work out 5 days a week, no matter what.
But even that breaks down your body and causes you your older age.
Right. No, that's bullshit. No.
No.
You're not playing football.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
You're not playing football.
True.
I mean,
but if you run 5 miles a day.
No. A good workout is you're lifting weights. Like, I row, I ride, I run, and I've reduced my running. I won't
because that does ultimately
yeah.
start to break down.
I'll play pickleball, but we play pickleball like tennis. Riley and I do. I do lots of different, even riding motorcycles, which does break down your body. Dirt bikes, because I wreck.
If you don't wreck? Oh, if you wreck. Okay, yeah, that'll do it.
Is mountain bikes and dirt bikes are my nemesis. And so my point here is like doing all that different stuff is the way you want to work out.
Yeah.
And I mentioned the dirt bikes because I burn 2,000 calories when I ride.
I did not realize that. So it's like when you're racing,
intense.
It's intense.
So and there's a lot of weight involved. And then if you drop your bike, you'll pick it up. But anyway,
I didn't realize you still did dirt bikes. I knew you I didn't realize you still do it.
Gone a lot, but when I'm in town, I try to do it.
But you don't do any street bikes.
No, I think it's more
too dangerous.
It's all too dangerous.
But I think the dirt bikes are just as dangerous.
If there's one thing I wish I had never. God, I love the dirt bikes. But if I could have not done that, it'd be better. Yeah. Anyway, so I would highly encourage you to be working out and think of it like a job, because
the other garage, not this one, but the one attached to my house, because my kids are into working out. They're gymnasts, like
awesome,
hardcore. My daughter is no longer going to school; she's homeschooled.
That's right, I knew that.
So that she can do basically Monday through Friday.
And the risk is someday when this is over, she'll stop doing all that stuff, and she'll not. Like we all did it.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you teach
that?
And so you're a dad, you need to be the example.
You're exactly right.
And
I need you to text me that every day. You're the dad, be the example. No, but no, my wife and I, we talk about this, and we're like, we're both preaching to the choir, but then at the same time, we really like donuts.
Oh, I mean, this is my problem with the travel. I mean, I've said it before, probably on video. It's impossible to go to Italy and not. I always do the same thing. I don't have any drinks. I don't have a drink flying over on the plane that you're on for 20 hours, not to Italy, but and then I don't eat the bread or any of the stuff for some number of days. I maybe have a cocktail. I'm really good. And then there's a day where I eat the bread and it is wheels off.
Like the rest of the trip. It's like, so however long you make.
Yeah. And, it's that kind of a thing where it's like, it's legitimately very, very difficult. And that travel is actually my single biggest nemesis. And at least the long trips, I can be really good on the short trips, but it's tough because you also are on the trips. Like I want to experience the culture and I want to eat the stuff. So I would highly encourage you to think about working out that way. John and I were just talking today, Caldwell, my partner and service, we were talking. That's why I didn't get my notes prepared before this. We were on the phone. He just got back from Europe. And it was the exact same conversation. He's talking about,
has he historically been somebody who works out?
Never.
No.
Zero.
Yeah.
And
I'm more like him.
And he really, really wants, like he played ice hockey.
Me too.
For a while.
Yeah. I actually am thinking about getting
into it. I want to play that at the beginning of service. I think he was still playing. So, but that was kind of his workout. And then at times he'll start and then he stops. He owns lots of good equipment.
But playing ice hockey, I played ice hockey like 2 years ago, my entire adult life. Yeah. Playing ice hockey is not a workout.
Okay.
I mean, I say that. Maybe he was.
I don't know how. When I played
don't get me wrong, you're sprinting and you're definitely getting that workout, but you're changing lines so fast. So as soon as you're getting your heart rate up, you're sitting back down on the bench.
Okay.
So you're not getting.
Okay.
Let's put it this way: just being on an adult hockey league, if it's 40 years old, it's like working out once a week. It's like running on the treadmill 2 miles once a week.
Okay.
You're kind of getting a workout, but it's not going to do anything. It's not going to move. Am I right? You're looking at. Am I right? If you mentioned this too, if you just run 1 day a week, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Well, you should do a lot more than
you're still going to probably gain weight depending on how you're eating.
And it's not just about weight. There's so much more involved with exercise than weight.
No doubt. Yeah. Because I can drink milkshakes all the time and still.
Fortunate.
I still kind of have a little bit, but I don't look fat.
Yeah.
But I know that I'm still unhealthy.
We got off on a topic, but I think frankly, it's one of the single most important topics. And so you kind of got me going because I've thought about this in business. Look at take the guy that runs Oracle, Larry Ellison. Do you know who that is?
Uh-huh. In fact, I was just reading.
He's 80 years old.
They just bought
CBS.
Oh, that's what it is.
Paramount. I don't know, somebody.
But they're like some of the biggest media moguls in the world.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I knew his son.
Because I literally had to reread it. I was like,
he's one of the richest people in the world. Right. But that dude's 80 plus years old.
80 years old. I literally just read an article yesterday about it. He's 80.
Been very well known to take extreme care of himself, both in his diet and his. So if you love business, That's how you get to play the game late into life.
Yeah.
And I think if there's two ways that I think you kind of can think about trying to create motivation for yourself. Three, just look around the rest of the world. Everybody's a mess. Like, do you want to move like that person and feel like these people and be on all those medicines as you get older?
That doesn't help me.
Okay.
Keep going.
What do you love?
Help me because
You love
I had an 87-year-old grandmother who hasn't given a day hasn't given a second of thought of health that I know of.
Same good luck though.
You're right. Good, exactly. Because she's still up. Now she's getting to where she's less mobile but she doesn't think about these things. And definitely wasn't thinking about these things in 1980 when she was 40 years old or whatever.
87, she's way outside the bounds of what's normal. So I think you can't bank on that.
That's the thing that I have to argue with myself. I play devil's advocate here. If I can live to 70 to 75 or 80, somewhere between 70 and 80, do whatever the hell I want in that time period.
I mean, if that's the game you want to play, then but do you really feel great the whole time? Do you really show up in the best way for your kids? Do you really show up in the best way for your wife? Do you show up in the best way for your business and your team? No way. Like if you
I have never been one of these people. I can drink an energy drink, Jonathan, and it doesn't affect me one bit. I can't tell. I can drink coffee before I go to bed and I don't notice.
That's just how you metabolize it.
I just don't notice a difference. And so when you say, yeah,
what if
drinking, for instance, cocktails, I think you and I have talked about, we both like the cocktails. They're not healthy at all. And no, I do think about this. Like part of me is like, I never want to drink alcohol in front of my children ever. And then I get to that restaurant and I'm like, damn, a margarita sounds good. And so I'm just disciplined. I suck at that kind of discipline, it seems. I feel like the older I've gotten, I feel like in some ways the older I've gotten, the less disciplined I am. Does that relate to you in any way? I feel like I was more disciplined when I was 25 and 30 and had something to prove, so to speak. Whereas today, I don't feel like I feel like it's harder for me to create new positive disciplines in certain ways. Not so much so with business.
No, I think I just actually struggle with the exact same things I struggled with when I was 20. Like discipline around a bedtime and not staying up late, those kind of things.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
Anyways.
We can rewind to what it looks like to build a $10 million plus business, but the good that came out of what we were just talking about is, I think the point here is, if you want to be in the game, performing at the highest level, competing against all the 20-year-olds coming up into the world, be an example for your company, think as clearly as absolutely possible. There's this saying that you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I think that's an absolutely stupid statement.
I love it because I'm generally not the smartest person in the room.
But it makes people like you feel good. No. The reason I think it's a stupid statement is I don't want to be the smartest person in the room, but I do want to be the person in the room that has a high level of wisdom and a high level of energy. Because I have to take all the differing opinions and all the different ideas that I may or may not want to understand, and I have to have the wisdom to say we should march in that direction. I believe you're right, and I need to have the energy to constantly show up and be part of those meetings, and lead the company. And that to me does not require a great diet and doesn't require exercise in your 20s. But as you get older, there isn't a single person that if you talk to them, will tell you.
It starts to have an effect, but it's different for every person.
Different for every person at a different time.
Some people that happen
100%.
50.
Yeah. And so that's why I think it would be, since you love business, I think it's a reason to think about it in your life.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's a good conversation for people that want to go big. How many people, I'll give you my example. Like I just got back from Jackson Hole, and I didn't have much to drink there, but I had some drinks, and I ate actually really clean, but I had some drinks. And then there's just a couple like crappy business things I'm dealing with right now, and I just feel they're sucking all the life out of me. And they wouldn't normally if I was just going about my normal routine where I'm working out every day and I'm eating clean. Then I have a much higher level of optimism. So I'd use the optimism as an example. How do you put yourself in a position through how you treat your body to be as absolutely optimistic as possible? You can't possibly tell me that an optimistic entrepreneur will not outperform an entrepreneur who's a little beat down mentally, because there's always like a low level of tiredness in their life.
100%.
It's my other argument for why to perform at a top level like an athlete, you have to be living life this way.
I agree. I agree with you.
Build big things.
I agree with you completely, and then I don't act on it. but I agree
story
with
of
completely.
humans.
Yeah.
I mean, we all do.
Like you said it earlier, you can give the wisdom, and even sometimes you find that you're not living
like having a number and not,
exactly.
So we'll wrap this up here in a second. What are the other, like you guys have built to nearly 30 million. What are the things that you think have been challenges you've dealt with that somebody that's under 10 million or 5 million wouldn't even understand?
Keep in mind, 30 million for me
Across
3 to 4 different brands. I'm spinning one off is why I say 3 to 4. And so you're looking at one company's 15 million. Another company is 6-7 million. Another company is 4 million. It's slightly different, but ask the question again, because I think I just say it again and I want to hear it again.
Yep. And I understand that you haven't built one $30 million business, and so it is a little different. And because you've also got different teams that
very different, and also the $15 million business is a franchise.
That is different too.
That actually has a different effect. But
is there anything you feel that you could extrapolate that would be helpful to other people that you've learned building bigger than, and most people may have never seen this thing? There's a lot of that in business where we live in fear of the bigger size because we haven't seen the thing.
We talk about it regularly.
Okay.
We talked about it at the beginning of this conversation. The biggest thing that I've learned is it gets simpler the bigger it gets. It just does.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
1 million to 5 million, 5 million simpler. 5 million to 10 million, 10 million simpler. 10 million to 15 million. 15 million is simpler. I don't have a single business bigger than that, but I surmise that a single business doing 30 million is probably as simple or equally as the business that's doing 10 million.
As long as it's not leveraged, from my experience, it is not.
Leveraged is key, and that's important too. Yep. Yes.
Because leverage can create, you have to make a lot of, and it can create a lot of decisions in the business that can harm the business because you can't make the optimal decision because debt has become a risk in the business.
Agreed. And that's where Chorby, that's the mess that Chorby has somewhat gotten into, is we over leveraged Chorby to get into plumbing, to get into these tree and shrub business. And even though I shut most of that down and have shut it down between August of last year, so a year ago, it's literally still affecting me because of that debt.
Yep.
And that was heavy,
which goes back to too much complication.
Way too much complication.
Yeah.
The blessing for me is Scoop Soldiers, our biggest brand that hit the 8-figure business. That has, by and large, outside of trucks, we've kept that business debt free.
Yep.
Other than the trucks that produce plenty of revenue to cover that, we've kept that business pretty well debt free, and that's necessary.
So what's the worst thing about, from your perspective, the worst part of a big business? What do you hate the most about it?
Oh, I don't hate anything about it. I love the big business. The bigger, the better. And truly, I mean, I know you're looking off the top of my head. There's scale. You talked about it earlier. I understand these numbers. I've literally done them. If you have 15,000 customers and you know that you have a 20% turnover year over year, what's 20% of 15,000? That's 3,000? 3,000. That's 3,000 clients from day one that you have to replace every year just to stay even.
Yep.
And well, when you only have 1,000 clients, that's only 200. It's different. And so those economies of scale start to work against you.
Yep.
And that I have seen. I've seen it at Chorby, as we grew to
simple math.
But I've also seen it at Scoop Soldiers. And one of the negatives to the pet waste space is its higher churn rate. It's not lower.
Oh, is it?
Oh, it's higher. Think about it. Dogs.
It makes sense.
Dogs pass away.
I didn't think the dogs passing away was the churn. I would have imagined it was a little less. Like, it's a little easier for us to go back out there and do it than say mow the lawn.
Yes. It's easy to say, if I've lost my job, I'm cutting the poop scooper. I can't cut that grass, and I can't cut even my fertilization because my HOA is going to yell at me. But I can go out and scoop while I look for a new job. I can make my 10-year-old go and scoop. So there's that. But then there's also dogs. People don't have dogs forever. They unfortunately pass away, and so there's that. But no, it's a higher. It's 25 to 35%.
How interesting.
And that's one of the biggest negatives in that business. As you scale. So actually, that's the answer. A company that is doing a poop scooping business, and there's a few of them. They're up and coming. There's businesses doing $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year, all over the place. The thing that they don't recognize that is, when you get to that next, you do the math on your churn rates and how many clients you have to replace, and pet waste removal isn't where your client count just always goes up. There is a season where it kind of dips down a little bit and then goes up, especially in the last couple of years when the market's just tougher. It's been a tougher market the last couple of years.
That's a very interesting.
So if you're growing like crazy, you don't even pay attention to it.
Yeah, how interesting.
But yeah,
Couple, we'll wrap this up. Couple faster questions. Do you believe in owning at this size business? And imagine as your businesses get bigger, do you believe in owning your own shop and office?
oh yeah, 100%. You better, you should. You're just leaving money on the table.
How long, at what size do you think
As fast as possible.
Really?
Is there only in the business? You should own real estate as fast as humanly possible. And I messed this up a little bit. I bought my own real estate where my facilities were, but I spent years from approximately 2014 to 2020. I could have invested a lot of money in Collin County real estate, and and again, maybe it would have been a distraction, fine, but I'd have doubled the net worth probably if I'd have just dumped money into real estate. So I'm a big fan of real estate in general, but you should at the very least, when you're building your 7-figure and then into an 8-figure business, you should own the real estate.
Okay. I strongly disagree, but okay.
You built City Turf, you just bought it out.
Wait, how big
But
were
for years, you were a $10 million business for years.
we were way more, we were well past that when we built that place.
And you were in the place you rented for many years. See, and you're right. Look, I will say this. I don't think that there is an absolute.
I think we waited longer than necessary, but
You waited long, and you would agree with it. Okay, I would agree with that. But no, I would agree for most people, you should try don't go into crazy debt. Don't over leverage yourself just because. So in other words, take it with a grain of salt, what I'm saying, and tie it into what you're saying.
No, it's fine.
But no, I
think it's perfectly fine.
You should try and own it as soon as possible. I can say this, it has served me extremely well.
Yeah.
The very first house I ever bought, first piece of real estate
I should have never sold a single house or any of the exotic cars I've ever owned.
Right.
Well, that's not really true because I was better having all that in the stock market. But
the house I bought that was on an acre unannexed in the middle of McKinney and Frisco, Texas, that I bought in 2009, that I was just looking for a house. I wasn't planning on turning it into my headquarters.
Yeah.
That has served me so well. So well. And now I'm doing it again. We bought some property a couple of years ago for Scoop Soldiers headquarters. Torby's there too, in Anna. Yeah. And it's proving, again, it's early, but it's proving to be beneficial.
That's good. I'm glad you've been happy. It's a complicated topic where I take the other side. However, there's a prevailing argument that says that you should would be on your side, that you should buy your real estate because the majority of businesses will never be sold. You can't sell them. Like 80-something% of businesses will never be sellable.
Because you're selling a job.
And so the biggest asset will actually be the real estate and not the business.
Exactly.
That is a very compelling argument. And so
had I only built a $500,000 business and I was just still living in that house, all of my wealth would be in that piece of real estate I bought, not my business.
Yeah. I think my argument against it, something that has to come with this that I've never really thought about till we were talking now that has to be said is my whole viewpoint in life is build bigger. So if you're somebody that's like, I only want to build to X millions of dollars, then you'll probably be fine with the real estate. I believe real estate bought too early becomes a invisible ceiling where I can't get any more trucks in here. We're running out of space. And so the growth of the business slows down. Now you would say, well, that's stupid. You can just go get another place. But that's not what people do.
People would, you're right. They'd limit themselves.
So the business becomes a bottleneck and I hate bottleneck. Or sorry, the building becomes a bottleneck and I hate bottlenecks. Also, and I learned this from a friend of mine, Jason Cupp, who you know, in the data, because he's worked with lots of bigger companies, most companies lose at least a year when they build a building. They lose a year of progress.
All these things are 100%
and their profits
true.
Just fall
100% true. When I bought that property in Anna a couple of years ago, it took a solid 6-8 months to get in it. It took a lot of rehabbing. You did the same thing with City Turf.
We lost 2 years on the business doing that.
And so no, that it can very much so slow you down. It can mess with your focus. I totally hear it can bottleneck you if you're of the opinion that, I can't grow beyond this piece of real estate. I'm of the opinion, and especially in the world of Mike Andes, a lot of other people are now in this opinion, I'll just buy another piece of real estate and that's in my new location.
Yeah.
But my 1 acre, I can run, of my $30 million enterprise, I could run most of it from that facility. The other facility is longer
Yeah,
term.
a lot of your trucks are spread around the country, but yeah.
Heavily spread around the country. We have fully remote people, mostly hybrid. And so I've just been able to grow out of that 2,000 square foot house in 1 acre.
That's amazing.
To a pretty, I mean, yeah, with our mowing business, literally, we run a $4 million mowing business out of what Jeremy calls a barn. It's literally was a barn when I bought the house. I just finished it out. Now it's just a 15 by 20 barn with a window unit in it, and that runs a $4 million mowing business.
Yeah, which is great. Something else I just thought of, we're in a different market. And also, I don't think you can expect COVID again, like the real estate boom that happened because of COVID.
Agreed.
And so
we'll keep seeing this market grow, but
we'll see this market grow, but we're not going to see the COVID growth in the next 4 years.
I hope not.
Oh, it'd be a disaster. It mathematically doesn't. It's not going to happen.
That's the piece I don't understand with
there's no way. Economy. Not with interest rates.
How
no
do
way.
you make the housing market boom and the economy boom when nobody can afford anything?
Yeah. I look at what it's going to cost Riley to get his first house. It's absolutely insane.
It is insane.
And so, but we're more than that. What I was going to say is we're giving advice, or better said, we're giving our opinion coming from the DFW market. And there's a ton of people listening, and they're in somewhere in Arkansas or Nebraska, and they're not experiencing outside of COVID. They didn't experience these real estate markets.
I would still say own it is better.
Yeah, I mean,
I would still say it by and large, but you're not wrong. All the things you said are
I'm not trying to
you could buy too early.
I'm not trying to win,
and I'm not trying to win it either, because I think it can be both.
I think
you
it
can buy too early.
Yeah,
but I still generally believe, regardless of where you live, I'm just passionate about owning the dirt. I guess I'm my dad really taught me that, and I'm pretty passionate about owning the dang dirt.
Yep.
As I rented before we bought Atlanta, I rented for a few years, regretted every minute of it.
Yep.
Especially in hindsight.
2 more questions. How critical has your success been to your operations leader?
See?
The operational leader of your businesses, how critical has that been to your success?
Oh, it has 100%. Business partners who I chose to be in business with. I mentioned Josh earlier, and that was the first operational leader.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to, for me, especially because again, I am hands off. If anything, I over delegate. I'm the opposite of most business owners. I delegate too fast and too much. Yeah. That's the opposite of most business owners. So because I do that, I had very much so more than probably most business owners, I've very much so relied on that team, whether it's the team I've got today or whether it's people that have come and moved on.
Do you think in most $10 million plus companies, the CEO or the COO has the most responsibility? And
the COO has way more responsibility in the day-to-day. Yeah. They frankly have a lot on their plate, at least in my organizations. Yeah. When I think of a COO, I've got 3 COOs, Ben at Executive Lawn Care, Michaela at Scoop Soldiers, and Cynthia at Chorby. And those are some of they're heavy. I mean, it's operations.
Yep.
They are always busy. It doesn't matter whether you're doing $500,000 or $10 million. They are always very, very busy. Their positions are, I think I'm answering your question.
Yep.
They're very busy positions. You have to be really good at time management.
Yeah.
Whereas my role, I get to sit in a dark garage at times and daydream.
Yeah.
And that's healthy. That's what a CEO needs to be doing at times. But I get the quiet time. I get the peace at times. I don't think they get that as much.
Yeah. And I brought it up because I figured you'd have the same opinion knowing you, but it's a clue to individuals that want to grow bigger organizations, how imperative that hire is and having the right person in
You've got to be willing to delegate, and
Yep.
you've got to get the right person. And that person, there's actually a really good, if you Google the role of a COO, Harvard Business Review. This is an article that was Harvard Business Review from like 2006, and it's long, at least for me, it's long because I'm a slow reader, but it's long, but it really tells a good story of what you should look for in a COO. And a COO is just a title. You could be VP of Ops, it could be general manager, it could
just
be
operational person.
Operational, top operational person.
What's the top way you guys acquire clients?
Number one way?
Number one way.
Google.
Google Ads.
Google Ads.
LSA or Google Ads?
Google Performance Max.
Okay, to manage it.
I can't say I like it.
Yeah.
I actually question it some.
Okay.
Google Guaranteed. My business partner, David DeValle, who
he's LSA.
He is Google Guaranteed. Is that LSA? Yeah. Yeah. See, I don't know.
Local service ads, Google Guaranteed, same.
All he does is Google Guaranteed.
Okay.
He won't do Google Map, or he won't do pay-per-click. He won't do what Jeremy just mentioned.
He didn't. Yeah. Google Ads is what's the old Google AdWords or what people.
He won't even do that. It's only what I call Google.
Do you guys run Facebook ads?
we go back and forth. Chorby spent decent amount of money this year doing Facebook. Again, brand building is the way I look at it, top of the funnel. I believe that if you can do it, I think that I equate Meta today to radio. So Milestone Electric built their business on radio. Benjamin Franklin Plumbing built their business on radio. I think that Meta is where that's at. It's a hypothesis, I think, but that's where I think you need to be putting money if you're going to put money behind that.
Is Milestone or Benjamin still doing radio?
I don't know. I know that the HVAC companies do. I don't really listen to radio anymore that much.
Either. That's why I don't know. I was curious if that's driving revenue.
So I don't really know, but I know their brands because I've lived here since my whole life.
Their Milestone's killing it. They're awesome.
And so, yeah, we talked about that a few weeks ago. But I think Meta has a place. I also think that it's top funnel advertising. It's expensive, and you're just building your brand in your local community. What I've found up to this point is that no, you don't get made quick, inexpensive conversions these days on Meta. Meta is like running a commercial on radio. For 2025.
Any direct mail postcards? Do you do any of that stuff?
No, we did EDDMs a couple of years ago when I attempted to go into Lucas, into bigger properties, and I did EDDM campaigns, and we couldn't make it work. A damn thing off of it. Yeah. And I've got franchisees that do some version of various prints. I've got a guy in a franchisee in the Pacific Northwest was able to get all, you have to have permits to have a dog in certain municipalities. Well, he just got that list, and he's going to do we're putting together some print stuff for him. And I also will say that because of AI, I believe that I think there's going to be a retread of print and a rebirth, so to speak, of print in a broad sense, whether it be direct mail, whether it be door hangers. I think that that's going to start making a bit more of a comeback because the inefficiency and the cost of digital, of paid, LSA, Google and Meta, the cost and the ROI on that, I think, is going to continue to
go up, and so they're going to start testing the old methods again.
And AI is such a moving target. AI is, who the heck knows the game is changing so fast with AI. Door hangers isn't changing. It's still a labor game. It's still hard to find people to do it, but it has results when you execute on it.
Right.
And Cynthia and I have been talking about this. There's just so much dadgum unknown. Why would I put $80,000 into Meta ads, for example, over the course of a year, when AI could literally change the game in 6 weeks? We don't know. Everything's changing so fast. I don't think we're going to be robots aren't going to be mowing yards next year, but it is changing very fast in the background. And because marketing's always been so hard as it is, and Cynthia actually says there's other people saying this too, but I haven't heard it. But I think print might make a comeback, or is making a comeback.
Interesting.
Something I'm only vaguely looking at. I don't know how strongly I feel about it, but it's something
It's interesting thought. Last question: are you guys using AI in your business yet in any meaningful way?
Meaningful way? You hear
how are you using it?
We're using it. Everybody on my team is using the hell out of it. I basically have replaced it I've replaced Google with AI. I am not the tech savvy person on our team. I could not personally sit here and have a good conversation with you on all the different ways we're using it. That's Jeremy's thing. That's Cynthia's thing. Michaela's doing it. All of my top operations people are using it in lots of different ways. I couldn't go any further than that.
Okay.
Not because I don't want to, but because I literally don't articulate it. I'm pretty clueless at it.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Jonathan. Thanks for spending the afternoon.
Absolutely.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, sir.